Welcome to Up the Waterfall episode 8.
Yep, it is 8.
Part 27 of our EPCOT series. Just
Seems
kidding.
like it.
It is part 4 of our EPCOT series, which we sillily thought would be one part, but surprise, we talk a lot. There's a lot to cover with EPCOT.
Indeed.
I am, as always, Zanna Otis, or Zanna, as I'm known in some realms.
Or Zannaland.
From Zannaland. And this is Scott Otis, my husband, with me today.
Oh, Tisney.
And every day.
Oh, thanks.
We are continuing, and of course Christian is with us, our ever faithful producer on the side. He doesn't have a microphone, but he can shout if he needs to. He provides us with facts and figures when we are like, when did that happen? So we're continuing. Again, if you haven't listened to the first now 3 episodes, we do recommend you start there. You can jump in now, but it's going to be in the middle of World Showcase because we ended our last episode in China.
Or Equatorial Africa.
Oh, that's right. We did cover that. So
A little bit.
we are going, obviously, clockwise. Is that clockwise?
It depends
From
on if you're
the
looking
bottom.
from the sky or from under the earth.
Ooh, that's a deep.
Yeah.
Anyway, we started at Mexico, and now we're going around that way, and we are in Germany.
Which actually, incidentally, has a very famous clock.
I was looking earlier
There you go.
today at, we keep talking about where you can find some great resources on things that we're discussing, and there is a great Progress City USA.com
I love that blog, by the way.
blog post about the Germany pavilion itself. And it is really, it's called Examining EPCOT, the Germany Showcase, written way back in 2011, which is, right around when I was blogging a lot more.
Even though that blog is around, has been around for that long, pretty much everything on there is still completely evergreen.
Yes, because
It's historical.
a historical
yeah.
blog.
And that is
and
one of the really, really good blogs.
Finding factual tidbits and concept art and fun things like that. So this post examines where all of the architecture for the Germany Pavilion and EPCOT came from in actual Germany.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really cool if you want to go through and look at that and see where, the St. George and the Dragon statue comes from, and the clock tower, like you said, and just all sorts of fun little nods. And when they did going back to Norway for a quick second, when they did the update to Norway to add the Frozen ride, but they also added the Royal Sommerhus, where Anna and Elsa meet and greet, and added another little shop when you get out of that meet and greet. That is also very authentic. We saw a presentation on that. I guess was that EPCOT
Probably
30 or 35?
it was either that or one of the destinations.
Yeah, one of those.
It's hard to remember all those things, but yeah, my Imagineering friend Wyatt, who was heading up that project, they went to Norway and got all kinds, went to all kinds of different places throughout Norway to make sure that all of that was authentic.
So while Arendelle may be a fictional city within, I mean, they don't really say it's Norway, but it's landscape-wise, that's what it's.
Landscape and
thematically,
architecture,
yeah.
yes.
But the new section of Norway is very authentically themed to the actual country of Norway.
Absolutely.
Houses you'll find there and things like that. So
Mm-hmm.
they are still continuing, thankfully, to do that kind of attention to detail, even if what's
Because
held inside is not
it's important, I
necessarily-
think,
I agree.
from the original EPCOT vision to maintain that.
Yes. And I mean, you do know a handful of Imagineers, and thankfully all of them are major original EPCOT
Yes,
fans.
they are
So
giant fanboy nerds
this is
like us.
why I'm okay with things most of the time, because I know that the people behind things have the best of intentions.
They really do, yes.
Are sometimes limited by higher ups and budgets and things like that.
Yes.
But that's another topic that we'll discuss a different time. Anyway, check out Progress City USA if you want on that Germany thing. Unfortunately, that was the only one I could find that he did, so there weren't other countries.
I'm sure there are more. Because, but the thing about his blog, It's a rabbit hole,
Yes,
easily. There are
it
lots
is.
of links to previous blog posts that then have links to other blog posts. But that's a great place to get lost, in my
Yes,
opinion.
definitely.
Because, as I mentioned, that is one of the greatest Disney historical blogs. So check it out.
I agree. So, what's your favorite part of the Germany Pavilion as we walk through? And
I actually enjoy kind of stepping back and looking at the architecture as a whole. There is so much going on there. If you look at just kind of all the roof work,
yes,
it really is. It's so diverse, and there's so much of it. I don't know. I guess I've kind of taken to doing that. I never ate at the restaurant when I. Just wait. When I was there as a youngster, but I have been there many times since.
I've been there
and
with you, so.
that restaurant is the Biergarten is one of my favorite
Yes.
places to eat.
And it has changed a little from when it first started. It was always the buffet situation, but I think it was anyway. Someone may prove me wrong. But back in the day, you could get appetizer things as well. Like you could get a whole stick full of pretzels they would bring you.
Interesting.
Because that's one of my major memories, and I've posted this photo before of my dad and I in ponchos outside the Germany Pavilion, where it's, the daily 3:00 rainstorms, which we were on vacation. So, we just put a poncho on and kept up with it. But we ducked into the Germany Pavilion one time, and we were soaked to the bone, even though we had ponchos on eventually. And it was freezing, and we got pretzels, and that memory is ingrained in my mind. So
That's nice.
But they don't do that anymore.
But I also like how they have just a wide diversity of shops there, including the toy shop and the Christmas shop. That's always fun to look through. I mean, it is one of the 5 of the 11 countries that does not have an attraction. So, you take what you have there. I know that they were going to have a Rhine River boat attraction, and that is something that I sure wish they would have done, and I will always miss. But it is a great one just to dip through and go through all of the different shops. You can go counterclockwise or clockwise, and there's all kinds of fun, intricate things to see, like even the cuckoo clock shop and all that.
Yes. I'm wondering
What are you looking at?
I'm trying to see if it really was not a buffet originally and you just ordered
thought it
off a
was.
menu. Do you think?
I believe it
Birnbaum
was.
doesn't
Always
specify. He just says that they're what the food offerings are. It's not very specific.
That's okay.
But there is, of course, the show within that restaurant that is
like
an attraction.
An Oompa band.
And some of those people have been there from the start, I think.
That's right.
And, it's one of those classic experiences that's not necessarily specific to EPCOT, but just a cultural kind of everyone on the dance floor and dance around. And, I did that when I was little, and then my mom was able to dance with my kids when they were little.
Aww.
So it was a fun generational thing.
And they have another one where they played with the bells.
Yes.
There's there's so many good ones.
Yes.
So make sure to check that out if you can.
And I always loved the shops there because, as I've, this, I grew up going to Maine and lived in New England in Massachusetts. So most of the stores that I went to up there were that kind of old-timey.
Oh.
I mean, I went to Toys R Us too, or Child World, if anyone remembers that.
I do not.
It was a New England thing, like Toys R Us, but it closed down. Anyway, those were very similar style stores that I would see in old shops.
And those are fun to go
towns.
through.
Yeah.
They're
so I always
very
felt
neat
very
to
at
see.
home in that, even though I'm not of German descent. It was just always a fun time. And the Christmas shop, I always loved going through Christmas shops.
And pickles. The pickles.
I don't think the pickles
ornaments.
were as big as
I know, but
they are now.
I like them.
They are
fun to see the pickle
I
ornament.
was in there the other day, and some guy walked up and he's like, "What's a pickle doing in a Christmas shop?" And I was like, "Oh, he's gonna find out."
There's a whole story to
There
that.
is.
We won't get into that now, though.
And of course, right outside Germany was a World Key.
A World Key
Center.
kiosk. That's right.
Good
One
times.
of the very few that were. I think that was the only one out in World Showcase.
I think so too. Yeah. But I would always stop by it and just play a quick game with whatever that.
Oh, I
guy's
liked it.
name was.
Yeah, I like to just find all the information there. I never did make many reservations, but it was fun to be able to talk to the live people from somewhere else.
Did you just talk to them? And
yeah.
What did you say?
Just asking them questions.
I can't eat in your restaurants, but can you tell me about...
Well, they weren't there just to make dining reservations. They were there for information, too.
I guess I never used them for information.
Yeah. I actually have friends who had that job. At one point, their job was actually in Cinderella Castle.
Whoa, that's crazy.
Where currently the Cinderella suite is. That was
telephone situation up there. Yeah,
that's right.
I had heard that.
Very interesting thing. But I like the next country.
Italy?
Yeah. Italy.
Well, on our way to Italy, of course, this was an original,
right.
but we did talk about how they added that train set in the
Romantic Road in
1995 Flower and Garden Festival.
Mm-hmm.
Fun times. Episode 3 is where you can hear me talk about that, and
right.
Wikipedia is where you can see where I changed it to correct them.
And they have miniature festivals going on within that little town as well. But after
Italy
that,
is your another country?
No, I mean it's another country.
Oh, I thought you were saying you liked it better.
Honestly, to be in my super young days, Italy was probably the one that I kind of zoomed through the most.
I was gonna say, I never took to because those shops were always very high end, crystal things and perfume that
and masks.
that I was not interested in at all. So we would always, well, not always, but every once in a while, go through that first shop that went all the way down, and we did eat in the restaurant a couple of times. That was probably where I had fettuccine Alfredo for the first time, I think. And I went there a few times as an adult as well before it switched over to Tutto Italia.
Mm-hmm. I do like the architecture.
Yeah, it was always fun. Well, originally in there was the Teatro de Bologna.
Okay.
Or di Bologna.
Oh, that's right.
And my dad was picked. They had one of those in Italy and then the UK, right?
Yeah. They had a little street theater where they had some minstrels that would come out and kind of perform I guess what kind of stories would they tell?
15-minute shows, according to Birnbaum. The Great Impasta, in which selected members of the audience have the chance to play heroes, heroines, and the vilest of villains in a style reminiscent of the Renaissance commedia dell'arte.
Okay.
And all I remember is my dad had a weird cape put on him and he was pretending to be a turtle.
Well, okay.
I have no idea what that was, but it was fun to watch.
Yeah, they were always funny.
Yeah, we would always stop
shows.
and watch them even if he wasn't picked all the time. And then the UK one as well.
Mm-hmm. I'll bet they did Shakespearean things out there.
Yes. It was a different time for entertainment back then.
That's right. I miss those.
They do still have, unique to the country entertainment. They used to have those sisters that were stomping wine, which that was more of a comedy, funny thing. It wasn't authentic Italian people. So yeah, and what else was in? They always had the fountain in the back, and it was pretty to look at. And I was going to say this about Germany too. One of my favorite things is to see those buildings lit up at night. It's always so beautiful, and I always want to take a million photos and then never do anything with them. But it's really fun. So moving right along, then we will go to America.
America did not exist until it did. This is one of our favorites.
Not because we're so full of pride and patriotism, but it really is a great show at
we are full
the American Adventure.
Pride and patriotism, but we really like that show.
Yeah.
It's very quotable.
And going back to, on the last episode, I mentioned that you could see the polar bear from Norway in the backstage magic tour.
Keep going.
You also get to go backstage at the American Adventure.
That's a highlight.
Have you been back there?
I have been, yes. For a different tour, yes.
So yeah, I did, tear up when I got in there, and I felt
it's pretty amazing.
A silly person because it was all other bloggers and whatever, and I'm this old lady that's crying at seeing Benjamin Franklin back there. But it was, obviously Epcot has affected my life a lot. So seeing, and it didn't take away any of the magic for me, as some things do. Like I always never wanted to see backstage at the Haunted Mansion, which I have seen a few times. And it's really cool. I'm glad I saw it, but I was very worried going into it that I would, lose that sense of wonder and magic about it. But it really made it even more impressive to me. And one of the things is that they still use the original computer systems because they work better than anything they could do right now as far as reliability.
Yeah, what they made originally works, and so why change something that works?
Yes. So we could, between us do the entire American Adventure, I think.
I think I could.
Yeah.
That was one of the things back when I worked at EPCOT. After work every day, my buddy Alex and I, we would hit the parks every single night and just basically shut down the parks every night. And so one of the things that we did is we memorized the lines of every attraction, and the American Adventure was absolutely tops on our list, and where we would be able to quote the entire show. And so he was always better at it than I was. But
really?
Yeah.
You're pretty good.
He was I've had many years since then to see the show.
Yeah, that's one of the things that, we can be anywhere and there can be something on the floor or the ground, and it'll turn into those are new whatever is all over the floor.
Dr. Franklin. Yes, I mean, I'm trying to hold back from doing it because I could just go on.
We really do quote that a lot, whether it applies to what's happening around us or not. It's very quotable.
That's nonsense. The same tea that cost you 3 shillings a pound costs us 6. But anyway.
No, ain't nothing gonna ruin today. We're all together. That's what counts. You were too soon.
I was. Quiet, both of you. You're going to ruin Ma's birthday.
Wait, that's before the thing that I say.
That's one of the things I like to do. So.
All right. Well, anyway.
Okay, we're getting way off hand here.
Are we? This is what people are listening in for.
That's
us
true.
Badly doing the American Adventure. No, just kidding. So back when it opened, the American Gardens Theater was not covered.
That's right.
And they had a little show called something that had the World Showcase dancers in it. I don't know if it had a name, but the World Showcase dancers. Do you remember those or not?
Very vaguely, yes, I do.
I have a great, love of them, and I miss them. They were just, dancing cast members from back then. I'm sure some of them were also doing the Top of the World show back then, which I also did and experienced a couple times with my parents.
Oh,
sorry.
All right.
But we would always, again with my mom with the dancing thing, we would always sit there and watch that show. And at one point, basically it was a dance couple from each country that was represented, and probably some that weren't represented. I don't remember all the specifics, but they would do a show on stage, and then they would come out into the audience and get a volunteer to just, do a quick dance around. And I was chosen one time.
Oh, I think I've seen the pictures.
Yes, I've posted that a few times. I will have to link it or post it again when I write about this episode. But it was just really fun, and my mom got to talking to one of them, so that's why we took the photos. There's one of me posing with her, and we would see her every time we would come back.
Oh, that's very special.
So yeah, it was a fun time, and then they closed that down, and that was sad, but I'm sure they went on to other areas of the park.
Yes, entertainment comes and entertainment goes, but
lately it just goes. But eventually they put a roof on the place.
Yep, they did.
I don't know the year of that.
I do not know either, but who knows?
Our producer is not looking that up for us, so we'll never
It was
know.
sometime in the 80s.
When they put a roof on the American Gardens Theater. But it might be in my stuff that I have up right here.
In the opening special with Danny Kaye and Drew Barrymore, they do have a performance at that stage by Marie Osmond. And yeah, you can see the spaceship Earth in the background, and there's wind whipping through her hair and all that.
I guess, is that probably why they...
Probably, yeah. It's because it's right on the water there.
Yeah.
So.
What else do we want to say about America?
Well, I enjoy the Hall of Flags that they have there that you get to go through on your way into the theater, which represents all of the flags that have flown over the the United States of America over its history.
They told me a fun fact about the grate at that wall. You know, there's that grate that's like all ornate and.
Oh yes.
And then there's another one upstairs. I can't remember the fact. But it was something that I didn't know before, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. I might have written it in the blog.
We'll have to find that.
If you know that fact about the grate, I think it's like an air filter, but I don't remember what it was modeled after something or whatever. Anyway, I do love the flags. Also, I love the whole theater.
Oh, just even all the paintings throughout the rotunda on the bottom and above are just. And I know those were done by a lot of the Disney artists, and I like the quotes that they have in there.
Yes.
So yeah.
Well, that's new. But yeah, and the music that was in the American Pavilion, of course, was in the same vein and the same, I guess, style or overtones to the rest of the original EPCOT music. So it really, you know, Two Brothers and Golden Dream. And then the Pilgrim song in the beginning, I mean, gives you goosebumps every time.
And that's another real good reason to have the Beard Epcot book, because they have some giant fold-outs that are the artwork that's used in that attraction.
Very.
Because one of the things I really enjoy about that attraction is that they only used technology that was up till that point of time.
Mm-hmm.
For example, you don't see video until video actually began. You don't see photography until photography began. And so before that, all they had was paintings. So everything that you see is a painting backdrop. So there you go.
Who knew? I guess you did.
I believe that was in the Birnbaum book.
Oh, really?
Well, I don't know. It might have actually been in the EPCOT Center book, but it's a fun fact.
It is a fun fact. I really enjoy that pavilion, and of course they are now closing down, or it is closed, Liberty Inn. So
yes,
it's going to be a barbecue town.
So no more hamburgers and French fries,
no.
Which I know they've kind of developed over the years, but it was always the go-to place for those that were not exotic eaters,
not adventurous with their taste.
Right.
So that brings us, of course, to Japan.
Oh yeah,
which may be my favorite.
I believe it is
country.
my favorite too, and it certainly became my favorite over the years, since I have had the fortune to be able to go to Japan a couple of times in 2010 and 2011. So
I think that trumps my, not to use that word, but my eating at table service dining when I was younger.
Yeah.
Because I still haven't been to Japan. Maybe someday.
I mean, yeah, I do enjoy the fact that I've gotten to go, but I certainly need to take you to see that. But anyway, it's because of that, it's certainly become one of my favorites. But it was always just so exotic and beautiful to begin with.
Yes.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, the walking up to it, I mean, the architecture and the design is just so beautiful to look at in day or night. And the fact that you can walk deep into...
Way deep, yeah.
...the pavilion, unlike America and... I guess, Germany you can a little bit, but it's not as far back.
Right. This one you can get pretty deep into. And then, of course, they have that museum that's in the back where they have a rotating exhibits, which are always fun to see.
Yeah. I always wanted to go up into the pagoda. And I always wondered why they didn't open that up. But
I'm sure it houses things that...
important stuff.
Yeah.
That we can't see.
Probably some speakers and things like that.
Yes.
And lasers for the nighttime shows. But but they have, the giant, huge department store shop is always, good for a couple hours to walk through and check out all of the fun.
Yeah. And goods. China had a huge store too, but I always preferred Japan's.
It never grabbed me as much as the one that Japan did.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it's obviously not all the same stuff, but I think, I don't know, it was just more intriguing. Mm-hmm. And certainly there was unusual Japanese toys and stuffed animals even back before Pokemon and Nintendo were added to the mix and all the other fun anime stuff.
And Pokemon. Did you say that?
I did say that, yes.
Okay, well there you go.
So nice.
I guess I was
you can
thinking
never
of
have too much Pokemon.
I was thinking of the Ghibli.
Oh yes.
The Studio Ghibli characters.
They have some amazing not just stuffed animals, but art, books of art, and like crazy thing like dishes and cups, tea sets that you would never see anywhere but there. Lots of fun stuff and intriguing things that were, as a little kid, you were just like in awe of them. And of course, fun incense that was always.
I do like the incense.
Yeah, when you walk in there, it's just transformative.
That's right.
And we certainly got some chopsticks over the years and probably little bowls and things.
Yeah, I always, my family, we actually did have the ramen, the soup bowls that they have that you can now find in the Japan Pavilion. Which were always very special dishes that we only used on very rare occasions.
And of course, the Japanese candy and things in the back was always
yummy and fun.
Fun to explore and try new things.
Mm-hmm. And honestly, the quick service restaurant, which used to be the Yakitori House, was always my go-to place. That was always a very delicious.
I never went there until maybe the early 2000s.
I guess you were
maybe mid 2000s.
Quick full service places.
Well, now I can't eat anything there except I think they have vegetable sushi. But before I was vegetarian, even the chicken curry is so good there.
Oh yes, chicken curry cutlet.
Yeah, we did go to Teppanydo many times when I was young. That was our go-to.
Here's
restaurant.
A fun fact for you. I went my first 18 years of life, and this was because of my mother, without having a single grain of rice. I never had rice.
Yeah.
And then I didn't discover it until I actually started working at EPCOT Center. And then I have literally had it every single day since. I cannot get enough. White rice is literally my favorite food. And I'm trying to basically catch up.
So much about you.
I'm trying to catch up from a whole childhood of never having experienced rice.
Yes.
And I guess my mother must have, I don't know, she must have had a childhood trauma with rice or something that she just refused to make it. But
I'm sorry you missed out.
No, it's okay. I've
made
since
up for lost
gone
time.
back. Yeah, since had many bowls of rice.
But yeah, the hibachi style dining in there, which I really loved before they redid it. It's still nice now. I can't remember specifically why I liked it better before, but it was always a fun experience. And like I said, I don't remember ever going to Benihana when I was younger. So having been spoiled by EPCOT, Japan,
I can imagine.
Then going to Benihana, I'm like, why are they throwing things at me? Because they did fun stuff with the onions and the volcano, and now they make it into a Mickey head, but they never did like crass things there. It was very tasteful.
Like the little oil boy
exactly. So not a fan of those sorts of things and getting involved where you have to like watch out for things getting thrown at you. But I haven't been there since.
It's been a while.
Being a vegetarian or vegan, so
that's okay.
And now, of course, they have the new restaurant downstairs, which we will try at some point.
Indeed.
But they always had the Japanese Zen garden up front as well, which was always fun.
So yeah,
it's a great place.
Which moves on to our next country, which is the Morocco, which is the first. Expansion since the opening of EPCOT, which opened with 9 countries, but Morocco was the first one that opened after the opening, which I believe was 1984. But since it's such an exotic place that a lot of us aren't very familiar with, I don't think too many of us have been to Morocco. It's always a fun place to go.
Yeah, I mean, it really does. It's a very close second as far as visually my favorite country, because it is so authentic looking. I mean, they had artisans from Morocco helping to build that. Yeah,
I know the Kingdom of Morocco really helped, whereas most of the other World Showcase pavilions were kind of funded by some of the companies within. That pavilion was actually mostly funded by the actual Kingdom of Morocco, and they sent their best artisans and their best artists and sculptors and things like that to actually create all the little intricate tile work that you see.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, and one of the really good things about Morocco is that it has so many fun little twists and turns and streets
that get lost in there.
Yeah, that really go deep into the pavilion. It's easy to get lost, and there's all kinds of fun things to be found in each of the little shops.
And you've never been to the restaurant.
I still have not been. Yeah, I mean I've walked through it, but I've
it was
never eaten
another favorite of my parents. So I never really liked it because I think the only thing I could get, because I didn't eat lamb even back then, was like chicken, but it was like on the bone. Okay. So I wasn't a huge fan of it, but I went there and they did have like, they would give you rose water, which of course, if you remember from a few episodes ago, I'm obsessed with and love rose water. But the good thing about that restaurant is it hasn't really changed much since opening at all. We took Christian in. He hasn't been either. I guess I just never took anyone back there.
I'd be interested in going.
Yeah, so we'll have to do that at some point. But they have, of course, the belly dancing show in there, and it's gorgeous inside. If you don't want to actually have a meal there, you can. Oh, yeah. They'll let you walk around and just look at them, and it's gorgeous inside.
And they have incense in the shops
in
out there, too.
As well, yes.
So that's always fun to smell.
And they have rose water.
Oh, that's right.
That you can buy.
I like the interesting music that they have. And
yes.
And then there's also that little museum, which you said is currently...
It's currently closed. It just says all of the same thing that all the EPCOT closures have the sign, we're creating a new EPCOT. So I don't know.
Okay.
I think it's the same thing, but we'll see if they're going to bring it back. But it was always a good hidden spot for both air conditioning. There's a couple little benches in there, but it was really interesting stuff in there as well. So.
Absolutely.
And then there's the shops outside across the street were always there. What else did I love about Morocco? I guess it was just getting silver and stuff like that. They added a lot to it though over the years, really. Yeah. With the Tangerine Cafe.
That's right. Which is a good place to eat. If you ask me.
You can get hummus fries at Spice Road Table even when Food and Wine is not happening.
But anyway, so the next one, and I should say that just outside of Morocco is one of the two friendship boat landings.
Oh yeah, we didn't talk about
the other one's in Germany.
We'll get to that.
But those, okay, the fun friendship boats that go across Walt Showcase Lagoon. Anyway, but yes, the next one is France, which is another one of our favorites. I know that both of us have actually been to France at separate times in our lives.
Yes, and it was just always very quaint and beautiful when you walked up. I was reading in the Birnbaum book, in the dining section, that apparently there was a place called, I can't find it right now, but it was Au Petit Café.
Ooh.
Do you remember that at all? I think it might be where the Food and Wine kiosk is in that section. And then they say that there was tables with umbrellas, but black-jacketed waiters.
Well,
I don't remember that at all.
I'm wondering if that was just the main restaurant.
No, because that was Chefs de France.
That's right. There's that one plus the one above it.
That was always
on the second floor.
What was the name of that before?
I'm not sure.
I can't remember. Before it was Monsieur Paul. It was something else.
Right, and then there was the La Pâtisserie out in the back.
Yes.
Which was always good. But I think the highlight of France is, of course, l'Impression de France, which you would probably be able to say better.
No, you're fine. You said it. L'Impression de France.
There you go. The movie.
Yes, my favorite of all things, and if they change it, I will be very sad.
I mean, it still is essentially the original movie that opened with the EPCOT Center on October 1st, 1982, and it's still going strong. I know that they're now kind of replacing it with, not replacing it, but it's going to be shared with a sing-along with Beauty and the Beast.
The live-action Beauty and the Beast, I think, or maybe it's a mix of both.
I believe it's live-action, but just as long as L'Impression de France could still be seen.
Really hope it's not like the beginning of squeezing it out, because it's outdated, yes, in some places, but it's just so beautiful, and the music that goes with it.
It's narrated by the music primarily, and the music of France is timeless.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's just a postcard picture perfect, the scenes of France.
And I think you and I have a similar background in that after going to World Showcase, we became much more interested in world travel.
Oh, yes.
We both got posters of other countries to put up in our room. I had France. I think like Brussels or something, which I don't know. It was just a pretty thing.
France and I had Canada.
Oh, Canada.
Mm-hmm.
Fun.
Which we'll get
to. So yeah, and the shops in there I think were similar for me anyway to the Italy ones that we would walk through them, but there was like that whole perfume thing and wine store I wasn't really too interested in. But the shop that was at the end of the movie was always fun for me. And it's still there, only not as big because they added.
Yeah, they've now kind of moved. Yeah, they've added the ice cream shop and moved the patisserie into that back area. But it's still a great place.
Everything that they have there is great as far as food and stuff goes, It's fun choices.
And then if we were to hop over the English Canal, which is represented by that little waterway that connects World Showcase Lagoon with Crescent Lake, that'll take us over to the United Kingdom.
Yes.
Where
you can get fish and chips.
Oh,
and a stroll on the high street and an English Tudor style area. Everything's represented there.
Yeah, as they never had an attraction there. It wasn't one that I really took to very much. But, they did have the street performers that you had spoke
I always
about.
Liked walking through the shops there.
Yeah, I always enjoyed that too.
They had fun little different toys. And the tea place was always fun.
It smells real good in there.
Yeah, and they always had different candy from the UK.
Oh, yes.
Was unusual and strange to me.
They never gave out free samples, though.
They did not.
Well.
And Rose and Crown has been, a classic from the start. It's right on the water. It's a great place to view whatever nighttime show happens to be going on.
Mm-hmm.
And they've always had fun British food there. So
that's right, like the Scotch egg.
Yes. And, of course, a main attraction in that pavilion was the UK phone booths.
Oh, yes.
Right next to the restrooms.
The red booths?
Always a fun photo spot for people that had never seen those
And they actually had those in both the United Kingdom and in Canada.
I was just going to say that.
Well, go ahead.
We can go to Canada now. We can skip over World Showplace because it didn't exist.
That's right.
Oh, I forgot to mention, too. Wait, really quick. When I was looking through all of these things, apparently there was a restaurant situation on that walkway between England and France called the Renaissance Food Fair. And you have no memory of that. I have no memory of that. It's actually on Progress City U.S.A. They have.
That's a great historical blog. I should recommend that.
Yeah, he has some photos of it from afar, so you can see what the tent looked like and where it was located.
So that was a temporary thing?
I guess.
I'll have to look at that.
It said that it served like all sorts of weird food that wasn't like specific to any country. It was like all different kinds of countries.
Very interesting.
So yeah, who knew? It opened in the early summer of '83, so I must have seen it, but I have zero.
Well, my first visit, as I mentioned, was in May of '84. So, was it closed by then, or does it not say?
It does not say.
Okay.
Oh wait, operating roughly a year between the summers of '83 and '84.
I have no memory of that.
Yeah.
But there you go.
That's
very
strange.
Interesting.
I guess because a lot of the quick service places had not opened yet.
Okay. Well, that would make sense.
Nine Dragons wasn't open. France's Bistro de Paris did not exist, which I just talked about. And stuff like that. So a weird little
a side note in history.
Yeah. But going back to Canada.
This was my favorite when I was younger.
Yeah, we kind of just walked by Canada a lot. Wow. I know. I feel bad because I missed out on beaver tails as a result of that. I never had one.
Beaver tails.
I've heard they're amazing. And you can still get them at
They're the size of a beaver's tail.
They still sell them at some fairs and
Yeah,
things
but
like
they
that.
don't sell it at Epcot.
I know.
The last one I ever had was the Millennium Eve.
Oh.
Delicious. But anyway, since anyone who knows me knows that I'm a big fan of waterfalls, and I've always been a fan of Disney rock work and moving water over that, so I really, really enjoyed that area. So just being able to walk alongside a stream between giant, walls of rock up to a giant waterfall. I was in heaven there.
I
love that.
Probably did the Canada movie more times than I did China, but it was still not a lot. I apologize.
That's okay. But I've seen that one just like the Chinese. Literally like all of them, I've seen hundreds of times. I just love it.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. We all have our childhoods and what we did, but I do wish you had seen it more because it was just fun to be able to get lost in Canada. And of course the O Canada song to me was just another classic EPCOT Center song.
Did you ever eat in Le Cellier when it was a buffeteria?
No.
Me neither. I had a friend that would go there all the time, so she has many memories of that place. But I never stepped foot in it until it became Le Cellier. And then I went a few times, but when it became like super popular and the dining plan started, I was just like, I won't bother.
In my college days, I got to the point where I was very curious to see things, and I was pretty bold at the time, so I would go in areas where maybe I shouldn't have been, just to at least see them. So I always found a way just to walk through, even just to use the restroom, just to be able to see what the interior looked like. And I know that one in particular, it's made to look bigger because one of the walls has mirrors on it.
Yes.
So it looks like double the size that it actually is.
I know. It's a very small little cellar.
And it's very dark because it's a cellar.
Yeah.
But I always enjoy the areas on the other side where the other gift shop was that had the totem
upstairs?
poles. Oh, that's right. There was
a
one upstairs.
Gift shop upstairs, which
the actual the tower up there.
I remember they had Anne of Green Gables stuff at one point up there.
It was always kind of hoity-toity stuff.
Yeah.
No offense, but it was always fun just to at least see that area being used. So it was fun.
I know, because now it's just empty, and everyone that you see up there is like, "What's up here?"
I like it because it's another way to approach the waterfall in the O Canada area.
Yes, and upstairs they do have the UK style phone booth.
That's right.
As well.
Mm-hmm.
And then they have that shop downstairs and the beautiful gardens, of course, on the way to Le Cellier from that side. And now, if you're listening to this during Food and Wine 2019, they have that fun apple orchard
in the actual theater.
In the theater, which is being refurbed as well.
That's right.
So check that out because it's very pretty there.
Woo. So look at that. Did we just finish World Showcase?
Well, we did not talk about the omnibuses.
Ah, yes. Do you remember a time when you could actually drive a bus around World Showcase?
I do. And I was just reading in the Birnbaum book this morning that he advises not to wait for them because you will get there faster on foot.
Yeah, but who cares?
But it really was such a fun, and of course, back in the day, there was more of them on Main Street, or at least more often on Main Street than there is now. Yeah. But it was just a fun way to see it. We always went up on the second story.
Always.
Unless a few times I got to sit up front with the driver.
I was actually friends with a omnibus driver back in the day. So Dana Lynn Booth, if you're listening to this, thank you. That was a lot of fun. The fun drives around World Showcase.
Yeah, it was really just, and they had to beep the horn a lot. I do remember that.
But I mean, if you think about it, now it is not even remotely close to possible. With as many festivals as they have, and just the crowds and the booths that they have for the respective festivals, it is simply impossible. What
would have been fun is to have them at the International Gateway exit, and then you could take the bus around Boardwalk.
They had the trams.
They did have the tram system
that did that.
I went on, yes. And now they have the Skyliner, so hopefully that's reopening at some point. But yeah, and then of course the friendship boats, as you mentioned, which back then were, brand new and much more, I think, fun and exciting. Now, I think they run a lot less than they used to. It used to be like every 10 minutes, I think, back then, wasn't it?
Yeah, I'm not really I don't really recall how often they went or how often they do go now.
There's a lot more in the fleet back then.
But I mean, now they've certainly expanded it to go all throughout that water area that goes all the way to the Hollywood Studios, to Swan and Dolphin, to Boardwalk, and to Yacht and Beach. So it's expanded.
Yes.
So, very good.
But yeah, and then that brings us back up front to Disney Traders and Port of Entry, which happened in 1988, apparently.
Which we found out. So that takes us to the end of the Epcot day, and so I guess night has now fallen, and so we have to enjoy some sort of a nighttime show.
Much in one day.
Yeah, we did.
Yes. My feet are killing me.
It took us 4 weeks.
But I think we should enjoy a nice nighttime show. What do we have lined up?
Well, it depends on when we're visiting Epcot. Originally, it was Carnival de Lumiere, which I have no memory of. It celebrated world festivals with fountains, film, music, and other effects. Rear projection screens on barges.
Oh, yeah.
And then fireworks, of course, controlled by Apple computers, apparently.
Ooh, a fancy new thing.
Yes. The show could only be viewed from points between the Mexican and Canada. Oh, well, that's obviously Mexico and Canada is the whole thing. Never mind. But that's a dumb line, Wikipedia.
Between Mexico and Canada on the Future World side.
Right.
Oh, just in that one section?
Yeah.
So it was like straight on? I guess I do remember that being a thing.
Ooh.
Interesting.
That's so limiting. I guess it's kind of like World of Color in that way.
Yeah, that's true. And then a New World Fantasy, which is, I think, what I have the most memories of. I always say Laserphonic Fantasy, but New World Fantasy had all the synthesizer things.
Oh, yes, synthesizers.
Which I loved because it was a big deal at the time, even though I played it for Christian and he did not enjoy it.
It was just boring.
I like synthesizers.
But it was classical music set to synthesizers, so,
I guess they always had that classical theme, because when they started Illuminations in what year?
Well, Laserphonic Fantasy was after that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And then that was also classical music, which was, each country's classical music. And then Illuminations, actually Holiday Illuminations was the first thing, I think. Oh, maybe not. That says starting in 2004, so that's wrong.
That's okay. But the original Illuminations is the one that I was a big fan of.
What, 88?
Started in 88. So as I mentioned, I was a cast member at Epcot from 1990 through 1993. So pretty much at the end of every workday, I would be able to see Illuminations. And one of the fond memories I have is just, instead of just staying in one spot to watch the show, me and my buddy Alex, we would actually walk all the way around World Showcase during the show just to see like how many times around we could get during the show or whatever. And basically get different perspectives of the show during it. So, and that was fun. I certainly enjoyed the classical music, all of the lasers and the water and the fireworks and the lights on all of the different countries' pavilions.
It was always pretty.
And that's when I guess they changed it at the Millennium.
Well, there was Illuminations 25, which that was the Remember the Magic year.
Oh, so it would be the 25th anniversary of Walt Disney World.
I guess so, yes. Not the 25th of Illuminations, no.
Right, okay.
We almost made it to that, but it didn't quite make it.
That's okay.
That had featured the Remember the Magic song, which was a big deal back then.
It was very much a big deal.
Still sponsored by GE back then.
Mm-hmm.
And then
the big change, of course, was for the Millennium.
Yes.
That's when they actually started the fun parade, the fountain not fountain, the Tapestry of Nations. My apologies. Which was just my favorite. I mean, if you can think about it, just like we were talking about the omnibus, can you imagine them even having a parade around World Showcase?
I know, that's crazy. And it was crazy even back then. It was kind of
like... That is true, because I guess they were kind of stretching the limits of what they could do. It wasn't a single parade that went all the way around. There were several entry points in the World Showcase where different parts of the parade would come on. So like there might be one that would come out in between Mexico and Norway, for example. or I guess Norway and China, and then kind of wrap around from there to Germany, for example, and then kind of cut back that way, and then another part that would go up from Germany and then go through France. So it seemed like it was one long parade, but it was actually several different pockets. But the soundtrack for these parades was just all of our favorite. Do you have any remembrances of that?
I mean, I just loved the music, and I loved the Sage of Time.
Oh, yes.
Leading the way, and then they had those weird drummers and everything.
They had the big drums, the giant puppets. That was just a lot of fun. I know that then they transitioned from Tapestry of Nations to Tapestry of Dreams, where they would collect the dreams of children.
Children around the world.
They would write their dreams on a piece of paper and then give them to the dream catcher.
Wow, yeah. I think I was not... Yeah, 2001, I was up in Rhode Island then, so
that's all right.
I didn't get to see that too much.
But yeah, it was a lot of fun, and that soundtrack, which is, there was actually an album that they put out that has all of the Millennium music, which I definitely recommend.
That's my favorite Disney CD.
It's a good one.
I'll have to listen to that.
But they also had that for the next version of Illuminations,
which was Reflections of Earth.
That's right.
Which we just lost.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, it was a fun and good show.
Uh-huh.
I do like when there is classical music and each country represented, so I kind of missed that personally in the Reflections of Earth thing, but I get that they were, telling a larger story, if you will.
The story of the entire world.
Yeah. And
from its creation all the way through present time.
It was always fun hearing, you and Glenn narrate the ball coming out and all of what the Earth was forming and what all the different things meant. So I will miss that. And it was great music as well.
Oh, yes.
And I think, just jumping right to Epcot Forever, I do appreciate that they made little tributes to that.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed the beginning 8 minutes of the 10 or 11 minute show.
I love the kites.
Yes, the kites are very fun. I wished that there were more original music used versus kids singing them or different arrangements. I don't know why they went that way. I guess they're trying to keep it updated or bring it to the future or something like that. Or it was just the barest minimum of tributes that they could do. I'm not really sure, because I'm not a huge fan, if you can't tell.
They represented many of the different original Epcot songs, but very few of them were in its original format, if any, actually.
No, I don't think any of them. Well, they did the instrumental Legacy song in the very beginning, so that was obviously original, but that was about it. And I mean, just hearing that instantly brought me to tears. And going into One Little Spark and Tomorrow's Child, even though they weren't original, hearing them did make me tear up a lot because I love the music so much, and I really just had such high hopes for a glorious 3-hour tribute to Epcot, and that's not what happened.
Yeah,
so.
I think we were definitely looking for something that they were not wanting to give us.
Yeah, and then, of course, they ended it with A Whole New World.
From Aladdin.
Which has no place in... I mean, I get why they did it, that they're saying Epcot is going to be a whole new world, and also there's going to be a lot more IP in Epcot, so get used to it. But that doesn't mean I have to enjoy it, and I didn't.
Yeah, I was told at the beginning that, trust me, you're really going to like this show. I just, it didn't get to me.
I mean, I can imagine. I haven't seen it since that first night, and I haven't been back to Epcot since that first night. Maybe we'll go tonight. I don't know. But I would imagine if I was just walking around World Showcase and it was happening, I would appreciate that it was happening and I could hear that some of that music, but then I would probably want to get out of there before A Whole New World started, just because.
And pretty much everyone that we spoke with, they were all very puzzled by the ending of that. They were all pretty much of the same idea that it was, good and fun, a lot of fun tributes, and then, wait, what?
Yeah, it was just very abrupt.
Wait, why did they do that right there? That was
especially
a lot of puzzlement.
Given the history of the nighttime spectaculars, how grand they all were. And I get that this is temporary, but it's a whole year. It's not just like, a 3-month show. It's a whole year of this. We don't even know how long it's going to be. I think
it's going to be a little bit less than a year, like March or May, from what I hear.
That's what I always thought too, and everyone since then has been saying a full year. So
that's
I'm
right.
Really confused. I thought it was something lasting until
it's an unnamed time of 2020.
Right,
so.
But it's definitely not forever.
Yes.
Which is good. So we'll always have our fond memories, and but I guess they will not be lived necessarily through this show.
I do enjoy I loved the fireworks. There was really fun colors. I loved the kites.
The kites are fantastic. Yeah.
Just the light up ones and the pyro kites. They were great. I love them. I hope that they keep those in future shows. And there are no weird jet ski accidents or anything to prevent them from using them.
Because there definitely had to be a choreography with all of the speedboats kind of meandering through the lake to make those happen. Yeah. But and I appreciate that.
Despite all of my opinions of Epcot Forever, I still have high hopes for Harmony Us. The next one on the horizon.
I think they're probably wanting it to be pronounced as harmonious.
I'm just kidding. I know.
It's funny because they do make the U.S. at the end, like us.
It's about all of us and our movies, so enjoy. It'll be interesting to see. I don't know. It's just I have no idea what the future of Epcot holds.
And that's the thing. We're going to find out more about this, and we will have another show where we will talk about the future and what they are presenting as being the future of Epcot at the Epcot Experience.
That's right.
So that'll be fun.
So this wraps up our very long, meandering stroll down Epcot's memory lane.
Yes, I would say original Epcot, if you will, at least from opening through maybe about 1993, 1994-ish. So, yeah.
We hope you've enjoyed walking along with us. Maybe you have some memories of your own or remember things that we totally didn't mention and forgot about. So you can let us know if that's the case.
Please do.
Until then, you can, of course, like and subscribe if you're watching us on YouTube, or you haven't. You can see us on YouTube if you want. Give us a thumbs up there. You can subscribe and rate us wherever you listen to podcasts or download podcasts. You can find us all on every social media known to man. And
you are Zannaland.
Zannaland and Otisney.
Otisney? Zannaland.com.
Yes.
Check it out.
You'll hear more about this episode on there when we post it. Yeah, that's about it. So
thank you very much
for listening and meandering and wandering with us. And
thank you, because I know that this has been very special. So
it has. We've wanted to talk about Epcot a lot for a long time, and I feel like we have. But as I said last time, we will go and do deep dives on specific pavilions and World
But we'll
Showcase
definitely
places.
touch on other topics for other places too.
We're not going to be all Epcot all the time forever. But this was fun, and I hope that you guys enjoyed it too. So
all right.
Thanks for listening.
Up the waterfall.
That is absolutely fantastic.
Well, that's only part of it. I got a big climatic scene.
But how could you top it?
Well, we set the place on fire, and we have our audience trapped down in this flaming city.
And how can they get out then?
Well, now you got into this mess by going down a waterfall. Now, how would you suppose we get them out of there?
By going up the waterfall?
That's right. Anything's possible in Disneyland.